Hi, I'm Kacey.
And I'm Gianni.
I never finished reading the Animorphs books as a kid, and I still haven't as an adult.
And I've never read them.
We can't tell you where we live.
But we can tell you that we want to revisit these books as adults and dive into what we would keep or change if we were to put it on TV.
Two friends, 50-something books. Welcome to morphinbuddies.
And then the music kicks in, and then people are just so ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to morphinbuddies. I'm Kacey Cisnowski, your host, and right next to me, as always, my partner and guy that just loves just slugging around, Mr. Gianni the TRUTH.
That's
Welcome.
right. Big
Welcome
slug
back.
energy. That's what we bring to the pod.
BSE.
Yeah, BSE.
Awesome. So, this is our second episode for the second book in the series called The Visitor. Just a heads up, my cat has zoomies right now, so you may hear some meows in the background. He will settle
Nice.
down. Also, the guy above me plays saxophone. He has decided to play it now, so you may hear some weird horn noises in the background. It's fine. Just the guy playing a saxophone, you know?
Yeah, no, that's
So,
all right. Where I live, the police only decide to turn on their sirens whenever I'm recording something. So.
Oh,
I
yeah.
totally
I'm
get the
excited
pain,
to hear
so.
those sirens.
Yeah,
So.
it'll go off. And if you hear it on your end, audience person, you are being arrested. Sorry, it's on your end.
Please put
not
your
ours.
hands up. You have the right to
Yeah.
remain silent.
Yep.
So anyway, so for The Visitor, the Rachel-centric book, I made a mistake. I thought it was Tobias. It's not. It's Rachel.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's all
Sorry,
right. 'Cause,
Gianni.
No, that's all right. I figured it out pretty quick when I saw the cover, and I was like, okay, I don't think Tobias probably looks like this girl. Already,
blonde-haired
interesting
girl.
enough, though, I already feel like they've aged up the cover a little bit. Like,
Yes.
from book 1 to book 2. They were already like, okay, maybe, like, the 7-year-old little boy is a little too young on the cover. Let's
little
get
too
someone
young,
a little
yeah.
more... Yeah, let's say someone a little more 12 to 13. But yeah, no, I wasn't upset to have it be a Rachel book because I famously did not. I can't even say I didn't like Rachel in the last book. I don't even know who the hell she was, really.
Yeah,
They
she was
mentioned her
just-
like a handful of times. She is what I knew about her before reading this book. She is the cousin of the other boring main protagonist from the.
Jay.
I was gonna say Jacob. I was like, no, it's not
Close.
Jacob. That's not right.
Shorter.
Yeah. It was Jake.
There you go.
And that's all I knew about her. Really. So this was refreshing to, I guess, get a little more insight into Rachel's mind. But I guess I'm curious your thoughts. That you already read this one.
Well, couple things. I don't think it was as good as the first book, but I think it was good in a different way. I liked getting to know Rachel since we didn't really get anything from her in the last book. And this one, Marco is a sexist. He's sexist as a heck in this. Like, every time I kept writing it down, like, oh, here he is being sexist. Oh, here's another. Oh, here's another. What the heck? This guy needs to take a hike. I'm through.
He was. I will say this though, to Marco's credit, I did find, I think, a little more connection to like the chemistry of the group, and I
Yes.
think he actually does play a big part in that in this one.
Yeah.
He offers a lot of like, I agree, it's like super weird and misogynistic, but like I feel like they always kind of are aware that Marco is making a joke, so you're kind of like, all right, this is just the guy who makes the uncomfortable comments at the soiree, you know?
Yeah,
and
he
he's
kinda
friends
lightens
with
it
our
up.
other buddy. Yeah, so we put up with it because he's just got that kind of that vibe, that energy, I guess. And I think it did bridge into some more interesting group dynamic stuff when it was all of them sort of conversing together than was present in the first book. I totally agree with you. I think that this book is not as good as the first book, but the pitfalls of the first book, I think it makes up for in this one. I just think it kind of like weirdly balanced each other out. Like,
Yeah.
Applegate, I think, was like, all right, this is much less like plot focused, but in turn we have more like character dynamics, and we're able to integrate with this group a little bit more. We're able to really have this this focused story on like pretty much just one individual event. I mean, it's very isolated, this story here,
and focusing on her family relationships as well as a friend, I guess, that is not within this core group.
I loved her too. What was
Melissa?
Her name? Something with an M, right? Yes. Okay.
Melissa.
I am so bad with names, and I promise it's not because I'm. I promise it's not because I'm not paying attention when I'm reading these books. It really is just because I'm so forgetful and like have Wikipedia things to try to keep notes. And even still, it's just not helpful. But yes, Melissa, felt so bad for her. She's what a little sweet creature she is. Just wants love from her dad, don't we all? And and then just sad about it at all times. But don't worry, she gets a little note in her locker to make her feel better.
Hey, spoilers, Gianni. My God. We're not there yet.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
You know what? Podcast ruined. We're done. Let's close this one up.
Yeah, throw it out. Throw it out the window.
So one thing I realized that we didn't really talk about. So we talked about Hork-Bajir and Taxons, kind of what they looked like. I realized we didn't really talk about what Andalites look like.
Oh yeah, kind of like with the deer antler things with the little eyes and the
yes.
the eyes on the antlers.
I was gonna say, have you looked up any pictures of what Andalites look like?
I have not.
Okay.
I tend to do this thing when I'm reading something where I'll read a thing and my imagination is so basic that I think the easiest way I can put it is I was reading 11/22/63 and I was like, it's John Hamm the whole time. And then they made a TV series and it was James Franco. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But my brain, even if James Franco looks more like the guy than John Hamm does, in my brain, you'll never disassociate that character from being John Hamm. And so, I always try to avoid looking at what, the book accurate sort of depiction is, because there's a lot of really great artists and fan art out there. Until I'm totally done with a book or something.
And also,
so
to
in
be
my
fair,
head,
I feel like James Franco should have played JFK.
That's facts, big facts.
Because he kind of looks like him.
Yeah, see, this is why they should pay us the big bucks. Give us the casting money, and we could really make something happen. But I agree. But yeah, I think that in my head, the Andalites, I take two details and then I'm like, all right, it's gonna be this thing, and it's just gonna remain like that. And so if I have the visual of what it looks like, book accurate, fighting with my very simplistic, unartistic mind, they're just gonna battle each other forever, and I'm not gonna be able to pay attention whenever I see an Andalite.
There we go. Okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna ruin that for you right now. So
go ahead. That's what the podcast is for, is just ruining.
That's right. And it's going to be slightly visual. So sorry, podcast listeners, just bear with us, because this is,
hell yeah,
you'll want to hear this as well.
Hell yeah.
So at some point there will be an Andalite on the cover of the book, so you're going to see it anyway. So do me a favor.
Ooh.
Go to andalitetruth.org.
Oh God. Okay.
The people who know what this is, they know what you're in for, and I'm very excited for your reaction.
Oh shit! Already misspelled it, but I found it. Okay. Loading.
So you'll see.
God.
So you'll see a picture of what an Andalite looks like. It's that's the cover of the Andalite Chronicles books. Describe what you see. What does this Andalite look like?
Oh my God. Okay. This is truly terrifying. Okay, I can't even make sense of this. It looks like a centaur, but truly cursed. It's it's got real monkey devil face, and then like pointed ears, and then it's got these two little gobbledygook, like little antennas that have eyeballs on the end of them, and then he's absolutely ripped. He's shredded, and then he's got a nice little like horse body under the torso, very centaur-esque, and then the tail is like a serpent's tail, but then it's got a horn that bridges
blade
off of the end of the tail.
That's the blade.
Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. It's a blade, so it's got a curved sword on the end of his little serpent tail.
There you go. So that's what Andalites look like. I want you to scroll down just a tiny bit just to read the paragraph, because here's the thing: somebody made this website. And they said...
I scrolled down too much.
No! Oh, my God. Okay, scroll back up. Just read the tiny paragraph. But here's the thing. Somebody made this website because they read the description of Andalites in the book, and they saw the illustration, and they said, that's not right. That's not how they're described. So go ahead and read that little description from the book in there.
So it says, the Andalite. From a distance you'd think he was a small horse or a deer. He has 4 hooved feet that flash with amazing speed. Mm-hmm. His upper body looks like a horse's neck and head, except that when he gets close enough, you see that he has 2 smaller human-sized arms sticking out.
So you'd think...
I can already see where this is going.
He's a horse from a distance.
That is a very different visual.
Not a centaur. He's a horse, not a centaur from a distance. So if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see different artist renditions of true Andalites. Which I think I remember the first one is just essentially a poorly photoshopped picture of a blue horse with arms coming out from the middle of its neck with clenched fists.
That's exactly right. They're like straight locked. There's no bend. It has a scorpion's tail, and then it has Jar Jar Binks' eyes just put right on top where its ears should be.
So
if
you continue to scroll down, you'll see different artist representations of Andalites. Some of them are really, really pretty and good, and some of them are cursed as hell. So I just wanted to expose you to this because
this is wild.
You need to know the truth as well as everyone else. Andalites.
They are gonna stay how they look in my brain because this is truly cursed.
I love the one with just the arms shooting straight from the neck. It's so aggressive.
Someone did a redo of the first cover, and it's just so like shrunken down. It's so awful. Oh my God, some of these are terrible.
Yeah, some of them are great, some of them are awful. They are things of beauty. So, everyone, you should all know the truth about Andalites. AndaliteTruth.org. Go ahead, do yourself a favor. Go take a peek. Pause this podcast. Go take a peek for yourself.
Yeah, you owe it to yourself, I believe. You
absolutely do. So,
unfortunately.
I guess we should start with this book, Gianni. Do you want to start out?
Sure. So we just go into the plot here, like spoiler warning out there?
Spoiler warning.
All right. So we begin with, obviously, the POV of Rachel, and as you had kindly told us in the last episode, it seems like all of the openers are going to be very much the same. It's like, I can't tell you my last name or the town that I live in, which, again, so silly, because there's no way that, if you are familiar with these events, there's no way that you don't know exactly who these people are. But, regardless... Rachel's opened up. They're flying around. They're having a little powwow, her and her buds, and they're flying around. She's a bald eagle, and her other buddies are all these other little birds. And all of a sudden, what's that? What's that whizzing by my feathers? Bullets. And they see some teenagers just cracking beers and shooting at birds in the sky. God forbid men have hobbies, though, because they just are like, they're like, we can't allow this to happen. Also, total squares, total losers. They're like, they're too young to be drinking these brewskis. Like, shut up. You know, I'm on these guys' side. You know what I'm saying? Not that you should kill a bald eagle, But if you
No.
want to just shoot at a bald eagle and miss, you know what? Who am I to say that that's a bad hobby? I'm just
I
kidding.
mean,
Don't
I'm
do
just
that,
gonna not to do that. Hard pass on that for me, Gianni.
But just a couple of dudes, being bros, being dudes, just shooting at the back of a pickup truck, just having some beers, and then so they all swoop in, all the birds, and they ruin these guys' time. They take
their guns.
Yeah, and then they throw them like into like the ocean or something.
Yes,
no? They throw them.
Take their guns, throw them.
Real
in the ocean.
Overkill.
And
but
then
I get it.
This was also the first instant where Marco was being a sexist. Very rude. He's like, man, birds are so cool. I can see everything. I was flying from the sky and I saw these girls coming from the mall and I was like, oh yeah, babes. And then I flew down and they were ugly. Ew, they were so gross and fat. He calls them ugly.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Doesn't he call them dogs?
Yes.
I was like, dude.
And I was just like,
crazy.
Marco, oh, my God.
Yeah, pull back. And I mean, the other girls at least are like, whoa, chickadee check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself. Too bad. He already riggedy wrecked himself because I don't know how you recover from that one.
Well, then also Jake kind of joins in a little bit. And I was like, Jake.
Yeah, because Jake is a loser. All right. I'm starting the chant. Jake's a loser, all right?
All right.
Jake can't let anybody have their fun. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I'm going to be a little hidden flea on your... Dude, whatever, all right? Let people like, do their own thing. He's like, no, I'm the leader. Fuck you, dude. No, you're not. You're a little, like, he's a little follower. He's like, let me follow Marco around like a little fucking loser, dude. I'm not on Team Jake. Big time Team Rachel.
And Jake hate is strong here.
Like, I'm very anti-Jake, I have to say. If I had to rank the characters after this book, I'm ranking them Rachel, number 1.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm ranking it Tobias.
Uh-huh.
And then Steep Gap, Cassie. Her name's Cassie, right?
What did Cassie do wrong?
I just don't know her, so she's like
all
Steep
right,
Gap, whatever.
Right.
But she's like, she looks pretty when she morphs. Cool.
Yeah.
Then Big Gap.
Uh-huh.
And then you got Jake. And then a little gap, and you got Marco.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the rankings.
That's
and
the Animorph
if you disagree
sandwich.
with those rankings, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Maybe it changes as the book goes on, as the book series goes on, I should say. But I can't see that changing anytime soon. But anyway,
I can't really disagree with you at this point, except I would put Tobias at the top because we love a sad emo boy who's just a hawk for the rest of his life. Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot to do in this book either, but still love Tobias though. He's just a little nerdy little boy. But so then they are all morphing back. They're describing the morphs. I thought the descriptions of the morphs in this book in particular, big upgrade over the first one. And you don't get a lot of them either, which is kind of interesting. But I think it kind of makes the ones you do get even better because as you're detailing them and especially what I loved about this was they kind of open it up that now they're getting a little more familiar with their powers, right? They can kind of pick and choose which things they more like if they're really concentrating on it, like you can have your hands go first kind of thing. And she uses that to some degree in the sort of climax of this book and stuff, which I thought was really interesting.
There is a point, you'll learn this later on in the books, but in the Andalite neighborhood universe world, they actually have competitions to make morphing as beautiful as they can possibly make it. So whoever can control the process of morphing the best, like, wins a prize or something, you know?
Wow.
And Cassie seems to be more naturally gifted at it than everyone else, which is why she's, like, cool when she morphs, and everyone else is a little bit of a sloppy mess. But it is cool that you can, like, really focus on specific parts and then change that to a degree. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that.
Big fan of that. So then really the plot, if there's a plot, starts kicking in. So first we follow Rachel to her little gymnastics class. And she's got a friend at this gymnastic class who was a friend, but has really sort of like distance herself
Yeah.
in these past few weeks or months or however long it's really specified. And this friend, Melissa, is the daughter of the vice principal of their school. And
Chapman.
if you recall, this vice principal, Mr. Chapman, was one of the main controllers from the previous installment. So we happen to know for certain that this guy is being controlled.
Yes, he's a controller.
Now, obviously, the assumption is Melissa's got to be controlled too, because she's really acting very strange. But Rachel's kind of like, I don't know, I feel it in my bones that she's not controlled. But
like,
then she's
up.
doubting herself. She's doubting herself because she's like, I know Jake thought the same thing about his brother, and his brother was definitely controlled. So, so she's kind of going hem and hawing, going back and forth. She's kind of having a little internal wrestling match. And if there's one thing I love in a little booky book, it's a little character having some doubts about themselves and about the people around them. So Rachel,
questioning their beliefs and everything that they know.
Big fan of Rachel. Yes. Doubt yourself. You know, that's the juice. That's the stuff I want to read about.
Exactly.
And then,
so all of her friends want her to essentially use Melissa as like intel to figure out another entrance to the Yerk pool, since her dad would obviously know and she might know. Rachel's not.
They closed up the last one. They
closed up the last entrance into the school, so nobody can use that one open school window to get in after hours and go down to the Yerk pool.
Actually, quick time out about this, because I remembered that I was upset about this, because Jake says to the group. Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, they closed up the last entrance to the Yerk pool, that one that was in the school. And everybody's like, what? How do you know that? And he's like, yeah, I just like kind of wanted to go check it out and see for myself or whatever. First of all, crazy. Second of all, they get all up Rachel's ass here. You'll see in the plot if you haven't read the book. You'll see in the plot when we describe it in a second. But they get all up Rachel's ass here about being like, you can't just go off by yourself. We're all a team. Fuck you, Jake. You did the same goddamn thing. And no one says a thing about it. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, Jake's the leader or whatever, so he can just do whatever. Bullshit. That guy sucks.
Get him, Gianni. Get him.
I'm call it how I see it.
That's right.
Call it how I see it.
I don't blame you whatsoever. I totally agree. Fuck Jake. You can't do that shit without telling anybody. Yeah. And then anytime someone does...
but the woman can't do her... Woman can't have no secrets? Fuck you, dude.
Yeah. It's like some kind of woman hate, toxic masculinity bullshit here.
Yeah. What did this book come out in 1996?
Oh, it was 1996.
Yeah.
That's, anyway, after this whole conversation, Rachel gets hit on by a pedophile. Clearly.
Yeah, whoa. I completely forgot about this. You're right. This is crazy.
This is how she got in trouble. So she's walking home from the mall by herself after leaving her friends, and this guy drives up in a car. She's like, he was at least high school age, probably more like college aged, and he starts hitting on her from the car. And when she says, leave me alone, he's like, nah, fuck that. Let me start following you. Ew.
Crazy.
She's 12, maybe 13. And
This was so out of pocket that I was like, oh, this guy is going to be a major villain or something. He's like, you're trying to capture her. Never brought up again. No. This guy, just a creep. Just some dude. I was like, this is wild to just throw in here. So she gets rid of him by basically half turning into an elephant.
Yeah,
and
half
he
morphing.
Like flees.
So her face, like, she grows the elephant ears and has half of like the tusks and the trunk coming out of her face. She bursts out of her shoes because she can't control the morph completely, but she turns her head and it's like this gross half elephant, half child head, and she goes elephant noise, and he freaks out and he runs away, and she turns around and she's morphing back to her regular human self. Chapman and Melissa pull up And she's like, oh shit, did they see me turn into an elephant?
Yeah.
And Chapman's like, why don't I give you a ride home, Rachel? Why don't you
Yeah, they're like,
step
what
into my
happened to your
car?"
shoes? She's like, oh, I guess I just got some crazy...
She's like, I told you I
crazy
needed to
bad
go
shoes.
shopping.
Yeah,
Come shopping with
for
me.
new shoes, of course.
Sus, very sus.
Yeah, so she's like, I gotta get the dirt on this guy,
Yeah.
right? So they're all chitty chattering,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, I think I got away. So they got a cat with a really dumb name, and she's like, if I can morph into the cat, then I can try to like spy on them in his house.
Yeah, because it's
and see if we can
Melissa's
figure out
cat.
the location of
This cat's an outdoor and an
Yeah.
indoor cat. So, do you remember the cat's name?
I just remember it was really dumb, and I forgot it the second after I read it. And you read it like a dozen times,
Yeah.
but I was like, no, not remembering this.
The cat's...
It's like Mr. Flappy McGoodle or something.
Honestly,
Actually, that's a better name.
I would love Flappy McDoodle as a cat. Fantastic name. Dr. Sandwiches is another fantastic name I would name.
Yeah, that would be way better. Yeah.
No, this cat is named Fluffer McKitty.
Yeah,
Just
even worse.
Vomit everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
Gross.
Look, some people don't deserve to own animals.
Oh my god. Gianni, she has no
and
one
that's
else
all
in her
I'll
life.
say. And that's all I'll say, because I like Melissa apart from what she named her cat.
Well, she also has her cat live outdoors and indoors, which, look, apologies if you have an outdoors cat and you think that that's natural for a cat to be outdoors. It's not. Your cat is more likely to die much earlier and get diseases and sick and hurt way earlier in life. They also kill bird populations for fun. They don't eat them. They don't do it just to eat. So anyway, that's my don't keep your cats outdoors tangent. Keep them inside. They're domesticated. They belong indoors. Get them their shots. Get them fixed. And give them lots of love.
Hell yeah.
And don't name them
Yeah,
Fluffer
if you're gonna
McKitty.
own a little pet lion, then you gotta treat it like a fucking like a little pet lion. You gotta take care of that little puppy.
That's right.
I've
Gianni,
never owned a cat, if you can't tell.
I feel like we're both coming in a little bit hot today because we're just mad about stuff that happens in this book.
I gotta just get it all off my chest. I gotta just unload, you know?
Same.
I'm like geared up. I'm like
fired up.
I don't know what this is.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? But you get what I don't know what this is, but it's like a launcher.
You got
know what
two
I mean?
punches, you got a rocket launcher,
Yeah.
you're ready to go.
Yeah. Just one of those. So they come up with this plan where she'll bait the cat. They have like a whole lot of interesting cat facts and stuff as well, which probably you could speak to way better than I can. But it's like this cat is super territorial and like very different from the cat that I think Tobias had turned into. Was it a cat last time?
Dude, his cat.
Yeah. A very different sort of
better name
cat
also.
this time around.
Yeah,
way better name. I
Dude.
would much rather be like, yo, dude, come over here. But so they're gonna bait the cat with a mouse.
Yeah.
And then use that to kind of like get close to it, whatever. All intents and purposes, she turns into the cat. She's got the cat morph.
Yes.
Now locked and loaded in her arsenal. She's gonna go. She's gonna infiltrate. She's also, they mentioned that she has the most morphs of any of them at this point in time.
Yes.
Which, like, sounds like a skill issue if you're upset about that, haters.
Get on
sorry
Rachel's
that Rachel's
level.
the GOAT. Yeah, sorry that she's the GOAT. You know what? I see I'm in New York City. I still see animals all the time. If you want to just fucking get more morphs, guess what? Get more morphs.
We got raccoons
loser.
everywhere.
So, yeah, fucking grow up. So then she... So she...
Love this.
So she becomes a cat. The cat.
Well, also
Flapjack McGirdle.
Also, instead of acquiring a mouse, she acquired a shrew. She morphed into that.
Right. I forgot about that.
She panicked because it's a prey animal. She almost lost herself in the morph, and then she wanted to eat maggots because that's the shrew's instinct. That freaked her out.
Yeah.
And that later in the book gives her some PTSD and nightmares, and that's fun. So
I remembered something else I was upset about Jake
What?
with for this as well, because yeah, she's like I really wanted to eat maggots, and she's all disgusted by it, and Jake's like, yeah, well, at least you didn't eat a spider like I did when I was a lizard. Jake, shut up, dude. All right, it's not a competition over who in their animal form wants to eat the grosser thing. Okay, shut up.
Look,
the worst thing that she's experienced is different from whatever you've experienced.
Jake, I'm looking around for who asked. I don't see who asked.
Oh, weird. Weird that no one here seems to give a shit. This guy, man. This guy.
Yeah. Also,
I'm just bullying this 12-year-old.
Well, also, I'm going to go back a little bit further. When Tobias caught the shrew, he was talking about how rats were delicious because now he has to eat rats for the rest of his life because he's stuck in his hawk morph. And Marco makes fun of him for eating rats. I'm like, I wrote in my notes, I said, Marco makes fun of Tobias because he wants to eat rats. Marco sucks in this book. Marco and Jake both.
Two of them got to get a grip here, okay? The two of them are just, they're out of control. We got to rein them in.
We got to rein these boys in. Tobias is the only good boy. He's the saddest boy. And you know what? He gets the girls. He and Rachel are probably in love at some point. They make eyes at each other all the time, and she likes him back. You know why? Because he's not a sexist asshole.
That's all it takes, actually. The bar's super low.
The bar is very low
the bar
for 12-year-olds.
To the Earth's core. But yes, so she's popping in here. She's a little tabby cat, and she's popping.
Well, no,
in
she's
here.
Black and white tuxedo cat.
Yeah, I got no idea.
Tabby cat, totally different.
Yeah, so she's a
learn
cat.
your cat facts.
Yeah. So she's a insert cat here cat, and so she goes in. And she's got, she's got a whole new sense of awareness, and she's predatorial, and she's always talking about these different sides of her brain, and blah, 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 whatever. But the important stuff is that, so she pops on down, she follows the Mr. Vice Principal into his little lair, and lo and behold, he's having a conference of sorts with our main antagonist, Visser 3.
It's like a hologram meeting.
Yeah, so they're having a Zoom call, and the Animorphs invented Zoom.
Yes.
And Visser 3 is chatting to him about, this and that, and Visser 3 ends up seeing the cat and then demanding that, you got to kill that thing. It could be an Andalite, because he's getting paranoid. And Chapman is like trying to explain that, well, it's my daughter's cat, and humans actually don't look favorably if we, it could make me look a little bit crazy, right? So it's like if you really
he's
want
like, I'm in a
us to
power
work,
position. I can't look like this. I need to keep up appearances. He's like, I don't care about the cat. It's my host's daughter's cat. I can't kill it. And I like that Visser
Voice
3.
of reason.
Yeah, Visser 3 calls cats a worthy opponent. He's a cat guy.
This thing is like hopping around, and she's trying to act more like a cat, given to her cat instincts, and he's
scratching
like,
at
wow.
his holographic tail.
It actually gets kind of comical that by the end he's like, "This isn't amazing." He's just like, he's blown away by cats.
Yeah, he's like, it's like it's a smaller version of the orange and black striped cat, and Chapman's like, yes. It's the same family. They're called felines. And Visser 3 is like, yes, a worthy creature. So
yes,
he's a cat boy.
Big cat guy. And so they don't kill the cat. They've decided to believe that it is a cat and not an Andalite. And
they don't really get anywhere else with this meeting. So
no, I mean, I guess maybe this is putting a cart ahead of the horse, but this entire book is kind of very inert plot-wise.
Yes.
It's just kind of like, here's some stuff, and you're like, okay. But if you skipped this book entirely, I don't think you'd miss anything for the remainder of the series.
Honestly, I think you're right.
Except for character interactions that maybe, if you're interested in the characters, then I think it's worth your time. But if beyond that, there's really nothing to this book. Pretty much at all. So,
So, well, okay, yeah. There's a couple things. I'll bring them up when we get there. But so they decide, okay, we didn't learn anything this meeting. Rachel, you got to do it again. And she's like, I mean, they kind of threatened to kill me, but she doesn't tell her friends that. She doesn't tell her friends that she almost died in that basement.
Yeah.
So they don't know that it was a dangerous situation.
God forbid girls have hobbies, though, you know?
She just wants to be a damsel. So she can just
Xena
a warrior princess.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Don't
Does that
yuck her
threaten your
yum.
masculinity?
So she decides, she's like, okay, fine, I'll go back tomorrow night. And so they capture the real Fluffer McKitty again, or they try to distract him so he's away from everything. She morphs Fluffer, and Cassie's like, hang on, Rachel, let me pet you really quickly. Don't mind me.
Snake.
And Rachel's like, weird, but okay. Then she goes back into the basement. This time she sneaks behind Chapman and she hides in the corner of a desk. And in the middle of the meeting, Chapman kicks her. And she, because cat.
Right.
And then Visser 3's like, that's definitely an Andalite bandit. Get her out of here. You gotta kill her.
Yeah.
I'm not playing these bullshit games. You get her out of here. And so this is the part of the book that I really thought was really interesting because you get to see the host fight the Yeerks in their heads, which is terrifying, actually.
Yeah. So he starts like spasming almost. He's like going into
and
like
his
an
wife.
Epileptic sort of shock. And
he and his wife
him much more viscerally, I think, than her. She's like,
she tries to kill herself. So they both are like spazzing, like having spastic attacks on the floor, rolling around, trying to fight themselves, essentially. And the wife brings her own hand to her neck and starts trying to choke herself out, which is metal as hell.
Yeah,
I love her for that. And then Chapman is like trying to fight the Yeerk in his head. I don't know what he's trying to do, but essentially we learn that Chapman's wife was a voluntary host, and then she got taken over, and then she regretted it. She didn't want to be a host anymore. And so she pulled Chapman into it, and Chapman was like, the only reason that I'm doing this is that I'll let you put a Yeerk in my head, but you leave my daughter alone. You don't do this to my daughter. We don't mess around with her stuff. We let her live her life, and you stay away from her. And they were like, okay, cool deal. And the Visser's like, I think I want to take that back. So I think you should put a Yeerk in her head, bring her to me. Which is why they start spazzing out on the floor, because now the hosts are fighting against the Yeerks in their head. They don't win, unfortunately, but the host, I guess the original Chapman in his head, is like telling the Yeerk in his head, I'm going to fight you in public. I'm going to make people think that you're crazy. I'm going to get you taken away. You're going to lose your position of power, and I'll make it keep happening. So you're going to lose this position of power, which actually, Yeerk's name is Innis226.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
But
not that I would have remembered.
No,
but,
it doesn't matter.
That's the guy.
But they have names, interestingly enough. So the Chapmans are spazzing on the floor. Rachel is stuck in this cat carrier. And then Melissa comes. They win. Chapman picks up the cat carrier. He's going out to the car. Melissa comes over, and she's like, what are you doing with my cat? And he's like, oh, nothing. I'm taking him away. And she's like, why? He's not sick. It's too late to take him to the vet. Why are you taking him away? And she's like freaking out because this cat is essentially all she has. Then the real Fluffer McKitty comes in, which I'm like, why? Why did this need to happen? I felt like it was kind of pointless.
Just let him go. And then Melissa was like, oh. And then Chapman's like, yes, that is your real cat. And actually, this one is a fake. And I am taking it to get a new home.
Yes.
And Melissa's like, why wouldn't you just tell me that from the outset? And he was like, I didn't want to startle you.
And she's like,
okay,
Dad, I was crying. And he's like, I didn't notice.
I don't know what that is.
I didn't see you there. Sorry. And so, you see like the blatant neglect that she's going through as a child, which is like so sad again. So then Yeah, so then Chapman takes her to the construction site. I'm sorry, Chapman takes Rachel as Fluffer McKitty to the construction site. It's getting close to time, her 2 hour limit now.
On the ride there, it is revealed that Kacey, the snake that she is, placed upon the back of the cat of Rachel a flea in the form of Jake, because God forbid women have hobbies. And Jake is like, well, sorry, I just needed to make sure you were okay because Tobias thought you were hiding something from us, and I guess it was that they were going to kill you in the basement. And Rachel's like, yeah, Jake, but, like, leave me alone, dude. Like, go get out of here. Like, I'm gonna die. And he's like, no, I can't leave you, Rachel. And she's like, please leave me. And he's like, okay. And then he leaves, quote unquote, leaves.
Yeah.
And then she's like, wait, Jake, I don't want to be alone. Are you there? And he says nothing because he left.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, she kind of pushed him away, and she was like, oh, let me test him to see if he'll come back. Because she, at that point, had already accepted her fate. She's like, I'm going to be a cat the rest of my life. I'm probably going to die. I don't want them to put a yerk in my head. I don't want to ruin my friend's secrets. I'm prepared to die, essentially.
Been there.
Which is crazy. Yeah. I mean, again, heaven forbid she should have a hobby.
Seriously, though. Seriously. Why? What is the threat, you know? So she gets to this construction site. Visser 3's there in person.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still, like, blown away by cats. He can't believe these things are real. He's like, this is amazing.
They're beautiful. And also, we've got Chapman. So the yerk in Chapman's head is like, hey, my host wants to speak to you without me controlling him. And the Visser's like, sure, let him talk. And it's crazy because Chapman essentially, like, falls to the ground. His body falls to the ground, and he's trying to speak, and it's like he's been under control of this yerk for so long, he's forgotten how to speak properly and how to use his body, which is like, like if you're in the hospital and you're in a coma for months and you need to relearn how to, like, walk again and speak and all that stuff. It's kind of like along those same lines. Like, he just doesn't know how to use his body, which also, like, really stuck with me. I was just like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's pretty brutal, but also, like, skill issue, dog. No, I'm kidding. I am very, very sad.
So he begs Visser.
He like, kind of threatens him.
Yeah, and threatens him.
And it's like, don't, if you hurt my daughter or anything, like, I will make sure I bring you all down and blah, blah, blah. And Visser 3 is, like, kind of reasoning with him. But the main point of it is that Chapman was like, I told you I would be a host so that you wouldn't hurt my daughter or make her a host. Seems like you're backsliding on that a little bit, buddy. And Visser 3's like, well, things change, actually. And he's like, listen here, bucko. I might not be able to walk or speak, but I will bring you down. And Visser 3's like, okay. And then he regains control of himself, the yerk, and then
get him,
stands
Chapman.
back up, and he's like,
get him.
Yeah, you threaten him, Vice Principal. You get him.
So then Rachel gets taken into the Blade ship. They're going to take her to space. And then a lot of stuff happens. Jake's like, ha, psych, I'm here.
Yeah.
And Rachel's like, I think I only have like 15 minutes. And Jake's like, oh, shit, that means I only have like 10 minutes because I morphed before, like 5 minutes before you did.
Yeah. So
I might be a flea forever. I gotta demorph somewhere. So he, like, finds a little hidey hole to demorph in. And he distracts the Visser while Rachel, like, gets out of the carrier, or like Tobias picks her up and drops her off in the woods while
this is what I was
others
referring
come
to,
in
though.
to fight.
She's able to use her human hand to actually, like, unlock the padlock or whatever.
Open the carrier.
Which was super cool. But yeah, there's this whole crazy escape. I mean, Visser 3 is super scary. It's just this weird, like, sort of climatic, sort of get out of Dodge kind of sequence. But ultimately, everything's remaining exactly the same. It seems to be the through line of these books, at least through 2 of them thus far. It's like, nothing's really going to change. We're not really going to move the needle on this one way or the other. Or just have, like, whoa, that was crazy. And then that's going to be that. So yeah, they're able to get her out, like, pretty much just in time. She's able to demorph, like, right before Tobias drops her to the ground, and she is still Rachel.
Woo!
Woof.
Crisis averted. She's not a cat.
Right. And that's pretty much the end of it. I mean, I
well, then that last little bit, that last little epilogue.
Yeah.
Rachel anonymously leaves a nice note. She's like, I typed it out on my computer so she wouldn't recognize my handwriting. And I was like, ooh, cool.
Yeah.
I think that's what anonymous means, but sure.
Nerd.
And it was something like, Melissa, your father loves you more than you'll ever realize, and he's always going to be there for you, or something like that. And apparently it like she like sneaks it into Melissa's locker. Melissa finds it later in the day, and apparently it makes her happy for like an hour.
She's like, maybe it was just my imagination, but she was really more participatory in gymnastics class. I'm like, it was your imagination, okay? Or dad's being controlled by an alien.
Not to pat myself on the back, but I did a good
Actually, I didn't save the world, but I saved one little girl's heart.
But like, here's the thing. I'll accept that because I think part of these books is also teaching preteens how to like be nice to each other and like be kind rather than just Marco, being a dick. Like, not to Marco, who calls women dogs. And also there's a part in this book where Rachel is describing herself to the reader, and she's just like, oh, I'm too tall to be a gymnast, even though I always wanted to be a gymnast. But everyone says, Rachel, you're going to be a model, not a gymnast. And as if that's like a bad thing.
So what?
How dare she? How dare she be a model instead of a gymnast?
God forbid women have hobbies.
So how are your thoughts and feelings? Are you still angry about this book?
No, I mean, I look, I'm playing up for the bit, okay? There's like, I'm really only angry that like Jake exists and that Marco is who he is, but like, all in all, I mean, I actually liked the group dynamic in this one far more, as I had said before.
Yeah.
I think that you can actually get a lot of the chemistry, and though it is like painful at times, though it is dated at times, it does feel much more genuine and naturalistic because we don't have all of the exposition to really get into this world anymore. So now we can kind of just play in it. Now the sandbox is already set. Now we can have our sort of playground. And so it is interesting.
You can see all of their different skills, like just as people, what they're good at and how they can use that to bounce off of each other with like ideas and things, which I thought is great because it kind of encourages like be friends with people who are different from you.
Right.
You can work together.
I completely agree. So I think that all of the, like I had said earlier, all of the pitfalls or the complaints I would have had with the first book, I think were actually improved on in this book. But the things that the first book does well, I think that this book doesn't do as strongly. I still think the pace is really fast, and I think that that's great. But this isolated story really feels very inert in terms of how it's actually motivating or moving the plot. It doesn't feel like you gain a whole lot of new information, and it is very procedural style in how it's kind of working here. Like it does feel like very much a one-off episode where, if you've ever watched procedural television, if you had like the experience that maybe Kacey and I did growing up or something where, you'd sit down with your parents and you'd watch shows like Law and Order, or you'd watch shows like House or anything that was on like Fox from like 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. You understand these procedural formats where the idea is you have an interesting story that takes place in the center of every episode, but the beginning and the end are largely going to remain unchanged. There are exceptions to how procedural television works, like House, most notably among them, does have like certain things that change over time. But ultimately, the nature of procedural TV is that you want to keep the audience coming back to what is a familiar routine. And so it does seem like this is the book that really sets the tone for what I imagine the rest of the books are going to be moving forward, which is just going to be a sort of like one-off experience. It's going to be really dissecting into a character, working with her friends, or working with their friends, but more specifically like being on a solo adventure for at least a large majority of it. And I imagine they're probably going to use this formula for at least the next several books moving forward.
Yeah. How would you, what would you focus on if it were a TV episode? Again, I do feel like it still feels like a TV episode. And I think
Mm,
as we read through those books, we're going to keep feeling that with each book, just because essentially Applegate wanted to make money from this and wanted it to be something that was on TV. But
yeah.
what would you trim anything? What would you focus on? Like, what would be how you would want to assign the beats in this episode?
Yeah, so you're dead on. I think it's still super episodic, just in how
Mm-hmm.
the actual plot structure is organized in these
Mm-hmm.
books thus far. Um, I actually would not trim so much in this book. I would expand. I
Mm-hmm.
think that one of the most interesting aspects of the books so far is something that's maybe not it's still acknowledged, but I think I would heighten the intensity of it or the
Yeah.
stakes of it, which is the paranoia aspect. I
Yeah.
think that if we're going to take an episode to really focus on Rachel's brain, I'd like to get an idea of what her home life is, even more than the glimpses we have of it,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can really start to pick apart where those changes are. Because and I don't know where the series is going, but I would imagine that once families start to get involved in this narrative moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's just a natural sort of progression of the
Yeah.
story. I would like to see how Rachel reacts to the paranoia of this could be in my own household,
Mm-hmm.
to then spread it out to this could be in my friend groups, this could be in
Yeah.
my teachers, this could be in all these other walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have those elements where now that she has the information she does, like how she interacts with her parents, how she interacts with her siblings, how that stuff is drastically different from
Mm-hmm.
what her life was like before, because again, this is still a coming of age narrative as well.
Yeah.
So I would spend a lot of the first couple of acts really establishing the paranoia. I would also, if I was going to cut down anything, I would focus it so that I would have one entrance
Chapman
as
visit.
the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
only have
I thought the
one.
same thing too
I
when I was
think
reading it.
I think it just kind of I think it intensifies the stakes. It makes more of like a time crunch on
Mm-hmm.
the moment. I don't think there's any reason to divvy up those visits apart from just sort of adding pages, to be
Yeah, well, I
honest.
think it's also like I was trying to think about this today while I was like going over my notes and everything, where I would cut out that second visit and just kind of mush the two visits and make it into one, just to kind of save time
Yeah.
and spend time on things we want, other things that we want. But also, I was also thinking like, well, I do kind of like the um, character, I guess, kind of motivation isn't the right word, but like the sense that Rachel's keeping a secret from her friends of like, I
Mm-hmm.
could die, they threatened to kill me, but sure, I'll do it again. And they don't know that. That's like interesting stuff for an actor, but ultimately, I don't think that's going to read very well just at, in the TV episode, you know? Like, you can't,
Mm-hmm.
you can only do so much with that, with the actor and the way that they present that. I think it would be, yeah, much more streamlined just to shorten it to just that one visit. I do, I
Absolutely.
do also like that they give you just like a little taste of like how it affects her family or how she is reacting to her family members. Like we kind of skipped over this a little bit, but it wasn't a huge thing in the book. But after Rachel is the shrew, she goes home, she goes to bed, she has a nightmare about wanting to eat maggots and like having a ravenous hunger
Mm-hmm.
for them. And it freaks her out
Mm-hmm.
so much that her sister wakes her up because she was like screaming in her sleep. And then she runs to the bathroom and she's throwing up. And her sister's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, just bad dreams, you know?" And then she kind of gets
Mm-hmm.
worried for her younger sisters. She has two younger twin sisters. She gets worried, like, if anything happens to her, what would they do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see more of that, more of that. I care for my family. I'm worried about that. I think that would be really beneficial in terms of seeing that on TV. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's like the whole like beating heart of the series is because it's not just this, it's not just that we're going out on adventures irrespective of what our lives were like. It's that we're going out on adventures at a potentially very detrimental cost. And so constantly reminding the audience of what that cost looks like, I think is only going to benefit the series as it would move forward.
And I think all of those costs are super relatable too. Because we all have families, we all have people that we love and care about, and really anyone, whether it's a sister, a brother, a father, an aunt, an uncle, like people are going to relate to one of these characters' stories, which is why I like that they're so different. So
definitely. I think that the only other thing is I think the car ride home, I would want to really up the stakes on that, because I think that when if you're in the car with what you know is the enemy, I think that because I think you had mentioned something just now where you were saying like you like the sort of motivation to go back in the house, and also like that like she's keeping a secret or something like that.
Yeah,
I think you can add a sort of tension to it, and I think maybe they're saving this for other books. Or maybe not, I don't know. But I see a real potential in, like, Visser 3 knows what the Andalites are capable of, right? And thinks that there are Andalites on this planet who basically disrupted his plans last time, right? What if the Andalites are posing as kids? Or what if Chapman has a theory that they are posing as kids?
Yeah.
And not that the kids have Andalite powers, but that the Andalites themselves are actually just trying to be kids.
And there was also...
That car ride is the theory. You know what I mean? If that starts the sort of...
And there was a couple moments, I think, in the book where Chapman is talking to his controller wife, and he's like, Visser 3 doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, I'm not going to lose my head over something stupid like this. Like obviously, there's some dissent among the ranks. He's just too afraid to say it because Visser 3 is so much higher than him.
It's so intimidating, I think, naturally.
Yeah, and very dramatic, which I kind of love about him.
Oh, yeah, he's so funny.
I love how dramatic Visser 3 is. I think if we focus more on that stuff and just, I think this could be an episode that is like a slow burn, where the tension just keeps getting stacked, and Rachel keeps more secrets and until it all blows up at the end of this episode. Yeah, she gets away and she's fine. Yes.
I had one more thing that I wanted to change as well.
Yes.
At the beginning of this book, Rachel mentions to Tobias a sort of fear that she has where they're birds at the time, right? And so she talks about how when you're morphing on as something that's on the ground, you know that when you morph back, like, you don't have the risk of plummeting to the earth. But she's like, if I had to morph when I'm a bird in the sky, then I am falling drastically. The only other thing I would change about this book is when she's morphing, because she knows the cutoff time is like right then and there. When she's morphing, if she morphs back into a human and grows too heavy and Tobias drops her, and then like have that moment where it's like, oh my god, like I'm completely gonna lose myself or something, and have another one of the characters sort of like swoop her up or something and save her. I would just add that last little moment of tension, because I think that just
that's such a good idea.
Adds the stakes, but also connects back full circle to the sort of beginning.
I think that's...
Sorry, I had that thought. I meant to mention.
No, don't apologize. That's a great thought. I think that is fantastic, because that also, like you said, it brings the story full circle, where, you know, it kind of starts and ends with her trusting her friends, you know, and trusting herself that she's able to, I guess, like, morph in time, you know, that brings up a lot of like really good things for her character. And she's this Xena warrior princess. They're going to mention that every single book. Just so enjoy that. But she also has all of these fear and vulnerabilities that she's keeping from her friends. But they all get it, because they all have the same nightmares. They all have the same fears. They all have people in their lives that they're trying to protect. Except for Tobias. He's a little hawk boy loner, but it's cool. He can handle it. He's fine. So I think that is a really nice little bow tie for the end of this episode slash book. I do believe third book. Oh, I don't want to fool you, but I do believe the third book is Tobias.
Hell yeah, let's go.
I do think the third book is Tobias. I remember he's real early on, and he comes before Marco. I think Marco is the fourth book. So I think Tobias is this next book. So what are you looking forward to in this next book coming up?
So I mean, I'm hoping that if it's Tobias-centered story, I'm hoping that it's a little more like moving the sort of main plot, moving the needle in the main plot a little bit more. I won't hold my breath for like many drastic changes, but at least acknowledging that Tobias has like a desire to turn back into a human. Building some of that more like romantic tension with Rachel, I think, because I'm still hopeful that I think maybe a long goal of the series is to get Tobias at least the information he needs to get back into human form. That's kind of still on my mind, and I would like if it's on his, then I know that we have a goal there. But if it's not, then I'll give up on that dream.
I mean, like, what would happen if he never turns into a human and he doesn't get morphing powers? He's just a hawk forever. Would you be upset?
No, not at all. But I think it would definitely be something that I would
be
still
bummed
be
about.
Like, damn, like they really have no contingency plan for this.
Dang
I would
it.
be like, dang it.
Oh.
But I'm hoping, if it's a Tobias story, it's going to be a lot more character drama. Hoping to get some ideas of his home life. Because obviously they're missing a kid now, so obviously that has to be addressed in some way.
Well, he did say after, like, he did say, I think somewhere in the first book, that his aunt and uncle, since they really don't care about him, sometimes they wouldn't even notice if he was around or not.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of gives him a little bit of a sneaky out of, like, they're not going to look for me. Like, one's going to think I'm at that one's house, and the other one's going to think I'm at that one's house,
And I'm sure that that's a real possibility, that it's at least bought us this much time. But we're moving out of days and into weeks. I would hope that someone's like, hey, I haven't seen Tobias in a while. You know what I mean? And how that reverberates. Or maybe it doesn't. And maybe that also like adds to his own sort of personal trauma and stuff.
That's so sad.
But yeah, I mean, apart from that, like, I'm just hoping for more of these things that are really keeping me interested in the series. More of that paranoia. I liked this story, this second one, because it was like more of an espionage thriller at times. And I know that if it's a Tobias story, it has to be basically exclusively that, because we don't have the ability to morph back into a human. So it's got to be that. Right. And I'm interested in a lot of those elements, and I want to see more of that stuff. Let's see, how Tobias is sort of like, going through the town and whether he's able to assess who might or might not be a controller at this point. Like, I want more of those elements. If it's not a Tobias story, then I still want those things, but I just want them, sort of in different ways than whatever we're offering with Tobias. But how about you? Do you have any dreams or aspirations for them?
I mean,
I guess you've read them, so you kind of know where it's going.
I can't wait, because some of these books take such like a huge left turn that you're like, what? Like, it opens doors that you didn't even see the door there. It was just like, and then you see it and you're like, oh, we're gonna do this. What?
Okay.
That's crazy. It does get into like some more sci-fi elements in later books.
Cool. I'm down for that.
Different alien races, different powers, all like superpower shit. It's kind of cool. I don't want to spoil too much, but it does get crazy and really creative and interesting in some of these later books. So I am very excited for us to get there.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to dive back into Tobias's story if he is the next book, and get into that sad boy's head. What's that sad boy thinking about?
Yeah, what's
sad stuff?
What's he getting up to, huh?
What's he getting up to?
What's he cooking in there?
That little freaky guy. What's he doing?
That little freaky boy.
So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us. I hope our audio levels are a little bit better this episode. I adjusted after the first one, and I don't think I'm blasting out the mic quite as much. Like I said, I'm a loud personality, and I'm learning all of this for the first time. Please be gentle.
Yeah, no promises on my end.
Also, I got us an email address, so by the time this is out,
Woo-hoo!
that will be ready. You can email us. Hang on, I need to find it because I sent it to Gianni and I wrote it down and I forgot what it was. Okay, you can email us at morphinbuddies@gmail.com. That's morphinbuddid. Oh, not IDS. Whoops. BUDDIES. I wanted to add a third D in there. Don't know why. Just my heart felt like it. At gmail.com. You can send us your thoughts, your feelings, your suggestions. You can do all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited. Anything else you want to plug before we go, Gianni?
Nah, man. Just listen to the next episode. I'm super stoked for it.
Heck yeah. So, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode of Morphin Buddies. You want to do it, Gianni? Yeah. Say it cool. Say it cool.
Morphin Buddies.
That's right.